You might notice how many people have been in the news and how many of the officers, literally officers by name, who had harmed me. You get to see how many of them are in jail or prison now, or been released from their departments for doing exactly what I told you they did to me. When I told you I just needed someone to go in with me and help me to turn it in, to get the body cam evidence. But no, people just wanted to argue. That's all they wanted to do. That's because so many people before Natalie was killed had blown me off before she was killed. I already knew what to expect. I've been a male my entire life. I don't need you to tell me. I don't need you as a woman to tell me what it's like to be a man. I don't need you as a woman to tell me how pampered I am. To be earning $50,000 a year. I'm not earning $50,000 a year, young lady. I don't get anywhere near that. I get less than a quarter of that. Less than 1/4 of that. I'm told that all of these things that horrible men did to you are all my fault because I'm a male. You bunch us all into the same category, just like BLM bunches all white people into the same category. I'm not the one out there shooting black people, homie. I'm not the one out there shooting white people. I'm not the one putting on a badge and a gun and terrorizing poor people. That's you. So let's get into the nitty-gritty and the details. I ended up getting disability because of physical disabilities. Physical. My other disabilities I've had my entire life, but the disabilities that I have, they're not disabilities in most of these cases. Having Tourette syndrome is not a disability. Your assumptions when you see somebody with Tourette syndrome are my disability. My disability is how you treat me over your assumptions. When I say I understand with all the drug addicts that do many of the same things, like I do this with my wrists. I've done that since I was 7. I didn't know what meth was when I was 7. That's a pre-existing condition. I did that before I was homeless, before I was an adult, before I knew what drugs were. All right, that's not true. When I was 7, I knew exactly what drugs were, but I definitely didn't grow up in a standard home with a good mommy and a good daddy and all that other stuff that you guys want to leave it to Beaver, so to speak. Any of y'all who don't know what leave it to Beaver is, it's a Susie white bread community where people don't curse, and they don't shout, and they're very humane to each other. When I was finally able to get disability, after years and years and years of going in by myself and explaining to hundreds upon hundreds of people who tell me to go do these things that I did by myself, and they tell me about their aunts who got disability. They tell me about their cousins who got into housing. They tell me about all sorts of people who have friends or family that went with them, especially if male. I know a lot of women who went in alone and were treated well, much nicer than a male who goes in by himself is treated. A woman can go into a lot of these services that a man will be denied right off the bat if he goes in alone. A lot of women can walk into those services and get what they need. A lot of them have all of the resources to get those things, though. They have a steady mailing address, they have a steady income. When I tried to go to the police in Colorado about the abuse that I was enduring in Boulder, I was told, well, maybe you should try moving somewhere else. When I was being abused in Chapel, Nebraska, I was told, well, maybe you ever think about moving somewhere else? You have to start over every time you move somewhere else. Start over from scratch because it takes money to move. And all of the money you might have been able to save in the last place, if you were able to save money, so that you could hopefully get into a place. Well, now you're having to spend that for bus tickets to go somewhere else. You're having to spend that for renting just a room at an alcoholic's house somewhere else. So let's go through the specifics. By January of 2017, this is almost a full year before Natalie was killed, I'd already been threatened and harassed and socially isolated and forced into homelessness. I'd already gotten into housing in Chapel, Nebraska, though, and I was going to therapy. I was seeing Nicole Peralta. That was over a year before Natalie was killed. I was seeing her about the situation for almost a year after, well, over a year after Natalie was killed. King of Nichols, when she gave me that $100 to go see my therapist, that was a therapist in Nebraska named Nicole Peralta. So I was told if I got disability, then the cops would have to do their jobs. If I had disability, then accusations of abuse were good enough for them to start investigations, and instead of blowing me off and telling me it's not their job, they would have to look at the evidence, and they would have to investigate, and every goddamn officer since has done everything that he can not to fucking do that. Why is that? Stigma surrounding men, surrounding the homeless, surrounding whites, surrounding mental illness. What's the easiest way for predators to dismiss their victims in the United States? Just call them mentally ill. This is especially effective if you're a woman. By calling someone mentally ill, insinuating that they don't know what's going on, that they're either psychopathic or schizophrenic. Many of the things that women are posting up that are narcissistic, these are literally examples and signs that a man is being abused. Very specifically, the narcissistic tendencies of men that these women are claiming. These are not narcissistic tendencies. This is us trying to cope with your unreasonable demands, your fucked up emotions. Oh, you feel like if I didn't buy you a Louis Vuitton bag that I'm an abusive husband, right? You feel like if I, being abused, come to you as a female for help stopping the abuse, you feel like I'm disrespecting you by not allowing you to repeatedly change the subject because I eventually get fed up with it and I say, please stop and listen. Oh, you're not listening to me! You're not the fucking victim, stupid. Most of the mental health workers that I have had to deal with have been women. who didn't listen, didn't take it seriously. Tamara quit her job because she didn't want her son, who also has Asperger's, being treated the way that I'm treated. This is before Natalie was killed. In January of 2017, when it got serious enough from the harassment on the internet, assaults in real life, threats in real life, threats on the internet, and threats over the phone, what did the cops do about it? What did my friends do about it? See, Brenda Dickinson, she finally got off her ass and did something to help me. She really did. She helped me to get into housing. I was 36 years old. This is the first time in my life anyone had ever actually gone with me to help me to get housing. And Tamara worked real hard to help me to get disability. I got disability, but instead of what she said was going to happen, once I had disability, the cops weren't allowed to blow me off anymore. Well, that didn't end up being the case, and I ended up still going to Nicole Peralta. Everybody in Nebraska was telling me to go. By everyone in Nebraska, let me be specific about this. The officers in Chapel, Nebraska, the staff at the Sydney Hospital, Nicole Peralta told me, hey, there aren't any services here. You got to go to the Front Range of Colorado. They wanted to send me to autism treatment places. Because maybe if I was taught to act normal, no, that never fucking works. That's what got us into the issue to begin with. Me having to mask having Tourette syndrome, which hurts nobody. Your assumptions result in you hurting me. And then I have PTSD from that abuse, from your assumptions. Because your assumptions aren't just in your own mind. They're also expressed in your words and your behaviors and your actions. Meanwhile, I'm not allowed to act like that, am I? Oh, hell no. I tell you, you did something harmful, and you're allowed to act like that immediately. The first thing you do is play fucking victim. I'm told by these therapists, oh, you should tell these people how they make you feel. Well, when they do these things and people are hurting you over this, do you try telling them how it makes you feel? Yes, I have. Yes, I fucking have. That'll send you into fucking therapy too. Fuck you! Stop blaming me! You brought this on yourself! Really? I do what you want. It doesn't turn out how you want it. And then you want to pretend that you're a victim. You want to pretend that you're a victim after I do what you want me to do. Because you're embarrassed. Or in the case of Nicole Peralta and many others, they just didn't do their jobs. Why was I in Colorado? See, that's the thing. I left Colorado to go to Nebraska to recover from abuse in Colorado. Natalie Bollinger went to Virginia during that time and wanted to pity party me and bully me into going to fucking Virginia. Eventually, she called me up and said she was going to kill herself if I wasn't already on the road. And guess what? She fucking tried. She actually attempted suicide because I wasn't already on the road. But then all she had to do was call me mentally ill to discredit me. When things didn't go exactly the way that she wanted them to go in Virginia. Because she was dishonest and because she was strung out on fucking drugs. And all she had to do was bat her eyes and play victim. That's good enough. And that abuse is what prompted me to go through all of those steps to try to get disability again. And I knew that if I didn't have help with it again, that I was going to have to continue taking the abuse again. I finally got disability, but I didn't have any sort of advocacy, and I haven't had any sort of actual advocacy since. The advocates have all told me to make calls around in circles, or they wanted to make calls on my behalf, where I just have to believe them. And the fact is, I've got so many recordings with these people where they change their minds about what the law is, just to suit the fact that they didn't do their jobs. They just wanted the money. So because I get a government check when there's abuse against me, they're supposed to investigate it right away. And if I have difficulties, someone is supposed to help me. But who is going to help me? I have a penis. You don't see my pain. What you see is penis. I must be a walking, talking, raping penis. You don't see the abuse that I endure. What you see is Whitey. Whitey the oppressor. Out to make sure that you're picking cotton in the fields. You see Whitey the oppressor. You don't see poverty, do you? No, of course not. I'm a white guy. If I'm impoverished, I must have chosen it, huh? If I'm injured, I must have chosen it, huh? You don't see my disabilities. You see lazy. I can't be a victim because I'm white. I have been a victim of racism most of my life. Yes, black people are absolutely capable of racism. So are white people. But racism and sexism are the only two prejudice that you seem to care about anymore. We made laws so that certain people could just make any outlandish accusation anytime they want. And innocent men, or heterosexuals, or whites, and you'd be surprised how many people in the LGBT community want to peg me as heterosexual. And you have no idea how many predators in the heterosexual community want to hate on me because they believe that I'm a homosexual. I just can't win. Everything is my fault, right? To half of them, it's all my fault for being a heterosexual. I am their oppressor because I'm a heterosexual. To the other group, I'm a horrible person out to take away their white Christian rights because I'm a homosexual. Fucking Christ, does anybody bother to find out who or what I am? No, they've already decided. That's why we're supposed to have these places that are supposed to help us if we don't have friends or family. And that's one of the questions they ask. They're supposed to help you if you don't have friends or family. But they do exactly the opposite, and you get to see that time and again. If you don't have any friends or family, see, here's the thing. They're supposed to ask you if you're wanting to hurt yourself or others. You're trying to turn in people who are hurting you. And they don't care about that when you're alone. What they care about is, are you going to hurt yourself or others? Or are you thinking about harming yourself or others? That's because you're a money maker. You make a shit ton of money. If you answer that trick fucking question. And if you don't answer that trick fucking question, they'll use that as a fucking excuse to lock you up. Fuck you, America!